The Leviathan's journey. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the UES Titan, watching the swirling colors of deep space drift past the reinforced windows. The massive vessel stretched 8 kilometers from bow to stern, making it the largest ship humanity had ever constructed. Its dark hull gleamed with the reflection of distant stars, and its defensive arrays sparkled like jewels against the cosmic backdrop. Sarah had commanded smaller vessels for 15 years, but the Titan still amazed her every day. The ship housed nearly 80,000 souls, from scientists and engineers to security personnel and their families. It was not just a ship, but a floating city, designed for long-term exploration beyond the edges of human space. The Titan represented humanity's boldest venture yet, a journey to the Andromeda sector where radio telescopes had detected signs of intelligent life. Dr. Elena Baskis, the ship's chief science officer, approached Sarah with a tablet in her hands. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, the same look she had worn for the past 6 months whenever they discovered something new. Sarah had learned to recognize that expression. It usually meant their mission was about to become more interesting. "Captain, we're receiving something extraordinary," Alina said, her voice barely containing her enthusiasm. "The signal we've been tracking is getting stronger. Much stronger. We're definitely approaching its source." Sarah took the tablet and studied the data. The signal showed complex mathematical patterns, and what appeared to be some form of artistic expression mixed with scientific information. Whatever was sending it possessed both advanced intelligence and a sense of beauty. After months of following this mysterious transmission, they were finally close to meeting its creators. "How long until we reach the source?" Sarah asked, handing the tablet back to Alina. "At current speed, approximately 18 hours. Captain, based on the signal strength and complexity, we're dealing with a civilization that might be far more advanced than us. Their technology seems to blend science with what I can only describe as art." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. The Titan had been designed with first contact in mind, but she knew that no amount of preparation could fully ready them for meeting an alien species. The ship's defensive systems were state-of-the-art, necessary for protecting so many lives in unknown space, but Sarah worried about how those systems might be perceived by a peaceful civilization. Commander James Rodriguez, the ship's tactical officer, joined them at the observation deck. His military bearing and sharp eyes reflected his years of service protecting human settlements from pirates and hostile forces. James had been skeptical about the mission from the beginning, believing that humanity should focus on expanding within known space rather than venturing into the unknown. "Captain, I've been reviewing our defensive protocols," James said, his voice carrying its usual note of caution. "The Titan's weapons systems are designed to protect a ship this size, but they're massive by any standard. If these aliens are peaceful, our appearance might be ... intimidating." Sarah appreciated James's concern. The Titan bristled with defensive weapons, shield generators, and armor plating that could withstand attacks from entire fleets. To a peaceful species, the ship might appear to be a weapon of war rather than an exploration vessel. The irony was not lost on her that humanity's desire to protect its citizens might be misinterpreted as aggression. "We'll approach with all weapons powered down," Sarah decided. "I want every defensive system in standby mode. We're explorers, not conquerors." Lieutenant Maria Santos, the communications specialist, hurried onto the observation deck with news that made everyone's pulse quicken. Her usually calm demeanor was replaced by barely controlled excitement as she reported her findings. "Captain, the signal just changed completely. It's no longer the steady mathematical pattern we've been following. Now it's like they're trying to communicate directly with us. The patterns are becoming more complex, more personal. Sarah felt a chill of anticipation run down her spine. After centuries of wondering whether humanity was alone in the universe, they were about to get their answer. The weight of representing her entire species in this first contact pressed heavily on her shoulders. "What kind of patterns?" Sarah asked. "It's hard to describe, Captain. The signal contains what appears to be music, but it's unlike anything humans have ever created. There are mathematical sequences that seem to be descriptions of star systems, and something that might be poetry. Whoever is sending this has a completely different way of thinking about the universe." Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's xenobiologist, had been quietly listening to the conversation. His specialty was theoretical alien life, and he had spent years imagining what humanity might encounter in deep space. Now his theories were about to be tested against reality. "Captain, if I may," Marcus said, stepping forward. "The combination of art, science, and mathematics suggests a species that doesn't separate these concepts the way humans do. They might see the universe as a single, unified experience rather than dividing it into different fields of study." Sarah found this possibility both fascinating and concerning. How would humanity communicate with beings who thought so differently? The Titan's translation systems were advanced, but they were designed to work with languages that followed certain logical patterns. If the aliens communicated through a blend of art and science, translation might be impossible. "Dr. Webb, I want you to work with Lieutenant Santos on developing communication protocols. We need to be ready for any form of contact, no matter how unusual." The hours passed quickly as the crew prepared for first contact. Throughout the ship, departments ran final checks on their systems. The medical bay prepared for possible biological contamination protocols. The engineering teams ensured all systems were running at peak efficiency. The security teams reviewed procedures for protecting the ship while avoiding any actions that might be seen as hostile. Sarah walked through the ship's corridors, observing her crew as they worked. She saw scientists excitedly discussing theories about alien physiology, engineers checking and rechecking life support systems, and families gathering in common areas to watch the approaching moment of contact. The energy on the ship was electric with anticipation and hope. In the ship's central hub, a massive chamber that served as both a meeting place and cultural center, hundreds of crew members had gathered to watch the main display screens. Children pressed their faces against the viewing ports, hoping to catch the first glimpse of alien life. Their parents stood nearby, sharing in the excitement while feeling the weight of the historic moment. Young Tommy Rodriguez, the tactical officer's 10-year-old son, tugged on his father's uniform. "Dad, do you think the aliens will be friendly?" James knelt down to his son's level, his stern expression softening. "I don't know, son, but I hope so. That's why we're here, to learn and to make new friends among the stars." As the Titan continued its approach, the alien signal grew stronger and more complex. Lieutenant Santos and her team worked frantically to analyze the patterns, hoping to understand at least basic concepts before contact was made. The ship's computers processed millions of data points, searching for mathematical constants and universal principles that might serve as a foundation for communication. Dr. Vasquez announced that they were detecting artificial structures ahead. The ship's long-range sensors revealed what appeared to be a massive space station, or perhaps an entire artificial world. The structure was unlike anything in human engineering, appearing to be grown rather than built, with organic curves and flowing designs that seemed to pulse with their own internal light. "Captain, visual contact in 30 minutes, reported Navigator Alex Park from the bridge. "The structure is massive, easily 10 times the size of our largest space stations. It appears to be inhabited by millions of beings." Sarah returned to the bridge, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. She was about to become the first human to make contact with an alien civilization, and the decisions she made in the next few hours would affect both species for generations to come. The Titan's crew looked to her for leadership, but she felt as uncertain as any of them about what lay ahead. "All stop," Sarah commanded as they approached the alien structure. "Maintain distance of 50,000 kilometers. I want all departments to report status." One by one, the department heads confirmed that their systems were ready. The ship's massive bulk came to a halt in space, its engines cycling down to minimal power. In the distance, the alien structure continued its mysterious pulsing like a giant heart beating in the darkness of space. "Captain," Lieutenant Santos called out, her voice filled with awe. "The signal is changing again. It's becoming more focused, more directed. I think they know we're here." Sarah felt her heart racing as she stared at the alien structure on the main screen. After 6 months of travel and centuries of wandering, humanity was about to meet its cosmic neighbors. The Titan hung in space like a sleeping giant, its massive form casting shadows across the void as it waited for the first exchange between two intelligent species. "Open a channel," Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Titan. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars." The message was broadcast toward the alien structure, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of an entire species. In the silence that followed, everyone on the bridge held their breath, waiting for a response that would change the course of human history forever. The Titan's computers recorded every moment, knowing that this day would be remembered as the moment humanity truly became part of the galactic community. The alien structures pulsing grew brighter, and new signals began flooding the ships. Communication systems. First contact had begun. The misunderstanding, the alien structure's response came in a flood of colors and sounds that overwhelmed the Titan's communication systems. Lieutenant Santos worked frantically at her station, trying to filter the incoming data into something the ship's computers could analyze. The signals were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, blending mathematics with music, science with poetry, creating a communication method that transcended traditional language barriers. "Captain, I'm detecting movement from the structure," reported Navigator Alex Park. "Multiple objects are separating from the main body. They appear to be ships, but their design is completely organic. They're moving toward us at moderate speed." Sarah studied the tactical display, watching as dozens of graceful vessels approached the Titan. Unlike human ships, with their angular designs and metal hulls, these craft appeared to be grown rather than built. They moved through space with fluid motions, like sea creatures swimming through cosmic waters. Their surfaces shimmered with the same pulsing light as the main structure, creating patterns that seemed to communicate emotions rather than information. Dr. Marcus Webb leaned over his xenobiology station, his eyes wide with fascination. "Captain, these beings have achieved something remarkable. They've created technology that's indistinguishable from living organisms. Their ships aren't just vessels, they're extensions of their biology." Commander James Rodriguez monitored the approaching ships with growing concern. His military training made him cautious of any unknown force, especially one that outnumbered them so dramatically. The Titan's sensors detected over 100 alien vessels, each one capable of maneuvering in ways that defied human understanding of physics. Captain, their approach formation is unlike any military pattern I've ever seen, James reported. They're not trying to surround us or establish tactical positions. It's more like they single quotes, dancing. Sarah watched the alien ships move in complex spirals and loops around the Titan, their movements creating three-dimensional patterns in space. There was something beautiful about their choreography, as if they were performing a cosmic ballet rather than conducting military maneuvers. The display was both mesmerizing and deeply alien, revealing a species that thought about space travel in completely different terms than humanity. Dr. Alina Vasquez worked closely with Lieutenant Santos, trying to decode the alien communications. The signals were incredibly complex, containing layers of meaning that seemed to shift and evolve even as they analyzed them. It was as if the aliens were trying to communicate on multiple levels simultaneously, expressing not just information, but emotions and philosophical concepts. Captain, I think I'm beginning to understand their communication method, Alina said, her voice filled with excitement. They don't separate factual information from emotional context. Everything they say contains both practical meaning and aesthetic value. It's like they're constantly creating poetry while sharing data. Can you establish basic communication? Sarah asked. I'm trying, but it's incredibly difficult. We're used to linear communication, where we exchange information in sequence. They seem to communicate in multidimensional patterns where everything is connected to everything else. It's like trying to learn a language that's also a symphony and a mathematical equation all at once. The alien ships continued their graceful dance around the Titan, their movements becoming more elaborate and complex. Sarah began to realize that this might be their way of greeting, a welcome ceremony that expressed their culture's values of harmony and artistic expression. The beauty of their display was undeniable, but it also emphasized how different these beings were from humanity. Lieutenant Santos suddenly straightened at her station, her face showing both excitement and concern. Captain, I'm receiving what appears to be a direct communication attempt. The pattern is simpler than the others, almost like they're trying to speak in a way we can understand. Put it through the translators, Sarah ordered. The ship's speakers crackled to life, producing sounds that were hauntingly beautiful yet completely alien. The voice that emerged seemed to sing rather than speak, with tones that rose and fell like ocean waves. The translation system struggled to convert the alien words into human language, producing fragmented sentences that hinted at meaning without fully conveying it. Greetings, harmony seekers, ... We are children of the eternal song. Welcome to our ... sacred space. But we are ... confused by your great metal star. Why do you bring weapons of silence to our garden of light? Sarah felt her heart sink as she realized the source of the aliens' confusion. The Titan's massive size and defensive systems were being interpreted as weapons, not as protection, for a peaceful exploration mission. To a species that had apparently never encountered warfare, the ship must appear to be a vessel of destruction rather than discovery. Lieutenant Santos, can you transmit a response? Sarah asked. I can try, Captain, but I'm not sure how well our linear communication will translate into their multidimensional language. Sarah thought carefully about her words, knowing that the wrong message could lead to catastrophic misunderstanding. Tell them we are explorers, not warriors. Our ship is large because it carries many people on a long journey. Our defensive systems are for protection, not aggression. Lieutenant Santos worked to translate the message, but the alien response showed continued confusion. The concept of needing protection seemed foreign to them, as if they lived in a universe where violence was unknown. Their follow-up communication expressed bewilderment at the idea of defensive weapons and concern about what threats could require such massive protection. Dr. Webb studied the alien ship formations and made a disturbing realization. Captain, I don't think these beings have ever experienced warfare. Their entire culture appears to be based on cooperation and artistic expression. They literally can't comprehend why we would need weapons. The situation was becoming increasingly tense. Despite both sides' peaceful intentions, the alien ships maintained their distance, but their movements had become more agitated. The beautiful patterns they had been creating were replaced by tighter, more defensive formations. It was clear that the Titan's military appearance was causing fear among the alien population. Commander Torres suggested a bold solution. Captain, what if we powered down all our defensive systems? Show them we're not a threat by making ourselves completely vulnerable. James immediately objected. That would leave us defenseless if this goes wrong. We're responsible for 80,000 lives on this ship. Sarah found herself facing an impossible choice. Maintaining their defenses preserved the crew's safety, but perpetuated the aliens' fear. Powering down would demonstrate peaceful intentions, but leave the ship vulnerable to any misunderstanding or accident. There has to be another way, Sarah said, pacing the bridge. We need to find a method of communication that transcends these barriers. Dr. Vasquez had been quietly working on a different approach. Captain, what if we don't try to communicate with words at all? These beings express themselves through art and music. What if we respond in kind? Sarah considered the suggestion. The Titan carried extensive cultural databases, including humanity's greatest artistic achievements. If they could find a way to express their peaceful intentions through art rather than language, it might bridge the communication gap. What do you have in mind? Sarah asked. Music, Captain. It's the most universal language we know. We could broadcast some of humanity's most beautiful compositions, showing them that we're a species capable of creating beauty, not just weapons. Lieutenant Santos began working on the proposal, preparing to broadcast selections from Earth's musical heritage. She chose pieces that emphasized harmony, cooperation, and the beauty of human creativity. Bach's Brandenburg concertos, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and contemporary compositions that celebrated unity and peace. The response was immediate and dramatic. The alien ships' agitated movements calmed, and their formations began to shift back into the graceful patterns they had displayed upon arrival. The pulsing lights on their vessels synchronized with the rhythm of the human music, creating a visual symphony that filled the space around both fleets. Captain, they're responding to the music, Alina reported with growing excitement. Their communication patterns are becoming more organized, more accessible. I think we're finally beginning to understand each other. The alien voice returned, its tone warmer and more melodious than before. The translation was clearer this time, though still carrying the poetic quality that characterized their speech. Beautiful creators, we hear the harmony in your hearts, but still we wonder, why do you armor yourselves, against the music of the spheres? Sarah realized that direct explanation might not be enough. These beings needed to understand humanity's history, the challenges that had shaped their species, and led to the development of defensive technologies. It was a complex story that couldn't be told in simple terms. Dr. Vasquez, can we transmit historical information through their artistic communication method? Sarah asked. I think so, Captain. We could create a musical narrative that tells the story of human development, showing how we learned to protect ourselves while still pursuing knowledge and beauty. The next several hours were spent creating an unprecedented form of communication. The Titan's crew worked together to create a musical story that explained humanity's journey from its origins to its current mission of peaceful exploration. They showed how humans had faced challenges and conflicts, but had ultimately chosen to reach for the stars in search of knowledge and friendship. The alien response was profound. As they absorbed humanity's story, their fear transformed into understanding, and then into something approaching admiration. They began to see the Titan not as a weapon, but as a testament to human determination and the desire to protect what was precious while still reaching for greater knowledge. Brave singers, we understand now. You carry shields not for conquest, but to protect the song of your people, while you seek new harmonies among the stars. We welcome you to our garden of light. Come, let us share the music of our worlds. The first contact had been successful, but more importantly, it had established a foundation for ongoing cooperation. The alien beings, who called themselves the Zephyrians, invited the Titan to approach their space station. They offered to share their knowledge of the galaxy and their artistic achievements in exchange for learning about human culture and scientific methods. As the Titan moved closer to the Zephyrian structure, Sarah reflected on the lesson they had all learned. First contact hadn't required advanced technology or complex protocols. It had required patience, creativity, and the willingness to see the universe through another species' perspective. The humans had succeeded not through strength or superior technology, but through their ability to adapt and find common ground. Across the vast differences between species, the Zephyrian structure grew larger on the viewing screens, its organic architecture pulsing with welcome lights. Inside, millions of beings waited to meet their new human friends, ready to begin a cultural exchange that would benefit both species for generations to come. The Titan's crew prepared for the greatest adventure of their lives, knowing that they had just opened the door to a larger universe filled with wonders they had never imagined. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, watching the two fleets move together in perfect harmony. The massive human warship and the graceful alien vessels created a new kind of formation, one that represented cooperation rather than conflict. It was a sight that would inspire future generations of both species, proof that intelligence and goodwill could overcome any barrier to understanding. The universe had suddenly become a much larger and more welcoming place.